Hi, my name is Justin DeTavio, and welcome to Film Don't Lie. This episode will be part of Saturday Blitz's College Football's Fifth Quarter series, and we're talking about the 2018 College Football National Signing Day. We had an early signing period in December, and we touched on that before, but this is after our normal National Signing Day, the first Wednesday of February, and it was February 7th this year, 2018, and so we're going to take a look at that. Our topics are going to be USF versus UCF if the Big 12 was to expand. Which one should they take? Bob Davie's 30-day suspension because we cannot get through a week of the offseason without some kind of controversy. Our NFL Combine numbers by college. 2018 final team rankings and recruiting, and the top 5 on National Signing Day. From who was left, where did they land? Capping that off with Pat Surtain Jr. So let's get started here. USF versus UCF for the Big 12 expansion. You know, I believe that if the Big 12 was to expand, they would not take both UCF and USF because of stuff like trying to schedule baseball, softball, some of the gymnastics, things like that, some of the lower revenue sports or non-revenue sports, and how they match up, with travel. And so flying from Waco, Texas, all the way out, or from Dallas, Fort Worth, it's going to be a little bit taxing to do that multiple times down to Florida. They were already doing it to West Virginia, and then they would be doing it to Florida once, but not Florida twice. So you have to look at, and I think that it's oversaturation. Do you really want a Tampa and Orlando team in the same one? It's not quite the prestige of having Miami and Florida State in the same conference, although, lately they've been up and down, kind of opposite each other. But it's not quite that prestige anyway. That game is going to get huge ratings, and USF and UCF is going to do okay. It needs to be a Friday night game or something a little bit more special in order to kind of solidify those rankings. And so, what we're looking at here is, if I was to pick one, which one? Do I take South Florida and the Bulls or Central Florida and the Knights? Well, when you analyze the TV market, I think you'd be surprised that Tampa St. Pete is actually 11th, in the Orlando kind of Melbourne area is 18th. I would have expected the Orlando-Melbourne area to be bigger. When you look at Disney and Universal and just the size and landscape of how much they give it, it's Orlando, like, Volusia, Melbourne. But it's 18th in TV markets. And while, if you're looking at professional sports, Orlando has MLS with Orlando City, and they have the NBA with the Orlando Magic. Tampa St. Pete has the minor league baseball with the Tampa Yankees in spring training. You have Tampa Bay Lightning of the NHL, and you have the Tampa Bay Bucks of the NFL. The NFL is still doing the best business out there. Obviously, they're looking at millions upon millions of dollars to show those Thursday night games and Sunday night games and stuff. So what we're looking at is, would you rather have a college football market from an NFL market or a college football market in an NBA market? So TV has to be a big issue. It's obviously a reason why somebody like the Big 12 looks to expand, is to kind of grab up some recruiting area, which Tampa's a huge recruiting area, and Orlando's pretty good too, but also to get in those TV markets, and 11 is better than 18. When you're looking at airports, Orlando's definitely the bigger airport compared to Tampa, and it's right there in the heart of the state. So if you need to get down to Miami or up, and or to either coast, it's a little easier to do that, obviously, from Orlando rather than Tampa to get across the east. So I think airport-wise, Orlando's getting the nod. Public transportation are both pretty bad. Orlando has a Sunrail. It's nothing to get excited about. If you're looking at some other stuff, it would obviously have to be how well are the teams performing in the American Athletic Conference. So they both joined in 2013. The South Florida Bulls are 35-27, and the Central Florida Knights are 40-24. So very similar records. However, where UCF has prevailed are the major bowl games and winning them. USF's biggest bowl game is a Birmingham Bowl. UCF won a Fiesta Bowl against Baylor and a Peach Bowl against Auburn. Those two, and having the one loss in the undefeated season, are huge things to propel them into a major conference. So you beat a Baylor team who is in the Big 12, and you beat an Auburn team who is in the SEC, the mightiest, greatest thing on earth. And you have a quarterback, and Blake Bortles just played in the AFC Championship, former quarterback, and Asante Samuel. And you have some names coming out of UCF. If any kid still remembers Dante Culpepper, probably not as far as recruiting goes. But when you look at stadiums and campus atmospheres, UCF has a very nice campus atmosphere. It's not going to give you that old-time Notre Dame, or maybe even, when you're on campus at Chapel Hill, I can imagine how the basketball feeling is. I've been on campus at Chapel Hill before. You're not getting that. You're not getting a Georgia and Athens, but you are getting a campus feel. It's almost its own city, fire department there and a police department. It's almost its own city. So when you're looking at that, you're getting an on-campus feel. Driving into the campus, you're parking there, and you're tailgating on the lawn, and there's campus buildings all around, the student union, and there's that college atmosphere. When you go to the different schools in the Big 12 and you look around, they're college atmosphere. It's Morgantown, it's Norman, it's Austin. Those are places known for being college campuses, and especially Austin with the music and University of Texas. You're getting more of a college campus feel. When you go over to Tampa for USF, you're playing at Raymond James Stadium, a beautiful stadium, but its aesthetic is set to a pirate motif, if you will. There's a giant pirate ship. What does that have to do with the Bulls? Nothing. So it just feels like borrowing versus owning. And so, when you're at UCF, you feel like, well, it's a giant erector set ready to go. It is theirs, and it's on campus, and there's a campus environment versus when you go to a USF game, which I've been to, and you're just playing in a borrowed stadium. It doesn't have that same feel because of the Buccaneers lean towards, the colors and everything else that goes with it. The ACC is a little more inclined to that. They have Miami playing, but that's a neutral kind of stadium. If you've seen what they've done to it, they've moved out of being just the Dolphins and into much more of a neutral feel and vibe. And then Pitt, Pitt with the Steelers and Panthers are both playing there. Really, coaching turnover. You have Taggart and Strong were both there at USF recently. In that time, you've had O'Leary, Frost, and now Heupel. So 2 coaches versus 3. That could be something, a bit of contention as well as we wrap up USF versus UCF. My final take is that UCF is the pick to go with. It's on campus, the bigger airport, and it's easier to get in and out of as far as you're not trapped onto one coast. And better bowl game record recently. And again, you're getting that on-campus vibe that I think the Big 12 is known for. Our fourth topic is going to be Bob Davie's 30-day suspension. The New Mexico Lobos head football coach Bob Davie has been suspended for 30 days without pay. It comes on the back of some allegations of misconduct, to quote ESPN's article about the situation. He is going to appeal. He says that the story is not corroborated, and that story is that witnesses have come forward to report that Coach Bob Davie told players to get some dirt on this whore about a young lady who was reporting some allegations about football players. Again, not corroborated. Because of the amount of allegations going on, they gave him a 30-day suspension without pay. The New Mexico Attorney General, Hector Balderas, said, "We will never tolerate a university culture that denies students their basic rights through illegal discrimination or retaliation against those who report sexual misconduct." That's on the back of the attempt, allegedly, of the football program and the athletic department to try to kind of squash some Title IX complaints and concerns. And so I think, that's not good. It's not good. And appealing it is good if you are innocent. If you're not innocent, it's going to be very bad for you. Bob Davie was out of coaching from 2002 until 2011, all the way through 2011. He was in broadcasting. He was a Notre Dame coach for a few years there, and he had a 35 and 25 record, including finishing 5-6 in 2001, a season that kind of cost him his job. At New Mexico, he's 30-45, but it was a dormant New Mexico team, and they won 9 games in 2016, which is something I'm not sure New Mexico's ever even done. From there, they did go 3-9 2017, piled that on with this investigation, and it's looking a little rocky for old Bob Davie. He did bring in the shotgun triple option offense, and it's kind of a rage around the coaching circles, and everyone's excited about that. He's looking innovating, but if you're innovating on the field but not innovating socially, what are you really accomplishing? So hopefully this isn't true for the game of college football, because between what's going on with Michigan State, what's gone on at Florida State in the past, and some other schools, it's starting to look, in Ole Miss and stuff like that, Baylor, it's starting to look like a bit of a mess in college football. And hopefully, the NCAA can at least step in, try to clean a little bit of this up, and some of these guys start considering they have wives and daughters and sisters, and they need to treat young ladies on campus the exact same way that they would want their daughters, wives, and sisters treated. The third topic is going to be the NFL Combine invite. So it's, if you're looking at sales points for a college football program, making it in the NFL has to be one. I believe Ty Hildebrandt was on Solid Verbal saying something about he spoke to a Division I recruit, and how they said everyone on scholarship in Division I pretty much thinks they're going to play in the NFL, and of course they do. You have to have an ego and a narcissism about you in order to make it at the highest level in anything that you do, whether it's business or it's music. You have to have that ego that you are great, and I think a sales point is how many guys are you putting into the NFL? And Alabama didn't just win a national championship, which is another one. Are we going to be competitive and successful and get the most exposure we can for you in order for you to make it to the NFL? And how great is your campus life going to be? If you're in a small school environment, and nobody's at the games and you aren't being praised and everything, and the benefits aren't great, then why go? So people go to University of Alabama to play football there for Nick Saban for a reason, because 14 players were invited to the NFL Combine for this season, led by Minkah Fitzpatrick, the cornerback. He should be the first guy off the board from Bama. Following that is 11 with the Ohio State Buckeyes, Denzel Ward, a cornerback. So a little theme there with defensive backs. And Urban Meyer's done a great job of putting guys into the NFL, and has had so many players, Ezekiel Elliott, and the list goes on, that are playing there, especially since his Buckeye days. 10 players being invited from the University of Georgia Bulldogs, who are the runner-up for the national championship. And Roquan Smith, the linebacker, is taking the lead there from that crew of guys. And a lot of rumors about him going to the Dolphins, which would be something very good for the Miami Dolphins. At 10 players as well are the LSU Tigers, Darius Geis, the running back, so joining Leonard Fournette. Be really solid for LSU to have guys like Beckham, Landry, Geis, and Fournette. Somehow they are unable to score points down in Baton Rouge. Both sharing 9 players in this rivalry is Florida State Seminoles. Their top player entering, being invited and entering is Derwin James, the safety. He was on a roll, one of the best players in the country before his injury 2 years ago, and then now he's sort of in that rebuilding phase. He had a great year for a guy rebuilding, getting back into game shape and kind of figuring out your body and trusting it. And so I think that was a good year for him. I think he'll be even better once he gets in the NFL medical staff. And then with 9 is Miami Hurricanes. And R.J. McIntosh is probably the lead dog there, although it's hard to say. It's really going to depend upon his combine numbers. Some of these guys, the combine is huge for them. How well does he move? Is he as explosive as you think when he goes to do the broad jump and avert? And, how well does he move in cone drills? People can say whatever they want about cone drills, but it's important to see a guy be able to move and explode and be able to turn that corner, because we're looking at split seconds and hairs of seconds and stuff, in this market. But if it wasn't important, they wouldn't do it. So with that being said, Bama leads the pack, of course, with the NFL Combine invites after winning the national championship. Okay, the moment we're all here for is going to be the 2018 National Signing Day Final Team Rankings. I use 24/7 Sports, their composite numbers, and we're going to take a look. Number 1 class in the country, for obvious reasons, was University of Georgia Bulldogs. Athens has now got 7 5-star players coming on campus, including quarterback Justin Fields out of Georgia, who is pretty damn sure that he's going to beat out Jake Fromm in his mind, and that's great. You need that confidence again, that narcissism. In Georgia, just pulling 7 5-star players. The next closest is Clemson with 5. So impressive statistic there to pull 7. And Georgia has been loaded with talent for a few years now, and it's just not stopping. They love football in Georgia. Ohio State is at number 2. They had 3 5-stars. Nicholas Petit-Frere, the offensive lineman out of Florida. Urban Meyer using his Florida connections to bring guys up. You have a staff of Greg Schiano and Urban Meyer, 2 guys that have been entrenched in Florida. Schiano recruited for very heavily when he was at Rutgers. And then obviously he was the head football coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks, so kids know that name at least a little bit. Not strong, but a little bit. And then Urban Meyer, 2 national titles at Florida, national title at Ohio State, another undefeated season at Ohio State while they were on probation. His name, is a household name. Number 3 is Texas, the Longhorns, coming in with 2 5-star recruits. And Caden Stearns, the safety out of Texas, is the top dog there. USC is at 4th. They had 5 5-star recruits. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the wide receiver out of California, was their top prospect. Looking at Penn State, they had 3 5-stars, and Micah Parsons, defensive end, out of Pennsylvania, is their number one. And Parsons, looks like one of those guys we always love to say, has the motor and all that stuff. But I mean, his film is very nice, and it shows him constantly moving and constantly making plays. And to keep a guy, to lock down Pennsylvania is great for Penn State. Number 6 was Clemson. They had 5 guys that were 5 stars. And Trevor Lawrence, quarterback out of Georgia. And apparently they had like 7 different states' top prospect or something crazy like that. At number 7 was Bama. Bama's class was small, and that's why they're ranked a little bit further down. They had 2 5-star guys. Iyabi Anoma, the defensive end from Maryland, is their top guy. Number 8 is Miami. They had 1 5-star, which is better than they usually do. Lorenzo Lingard, running back out of Florida, he's their 5-star. And it's a solid class for Mark Richt. It's one of their better classes since he got there and since the last few years. It's very well-rounded. Oklahoma Sooners brought an offensive lineman out of Oklahoma, Bray Walker, so locking down the state, not letting Texas poach that guy. And, Notre Dame is a national recruiting. They can't just, dip into Indiana. There's not a ton of talent in Indiana. So number 10 is Notre Dame, rounding out the top 10, with Houston Griffith, the corner, that was at IMG. And so I'm considering IMG its own state at this point. In my, sentiments, and so I'm just calling it IMG. I'm not going to say he's from Florida. He's from IMG. Interesting note was that Bama dropping to 7. USC's class was signed, and they pulled in those couple of studs there at the last minute. We'll talk about them in the next topic. Florida State climbing from the 60s there, where the staff, Jimbo, had kind of given up on recruiting. They climbed up to 30, and they're now up to 11th. So that's pretty solid. Florida State's not in the top 5 they normally are, but for Willie Taggart to come in late and kind of clean that up and get to 11 is pretty darn good. Oregon dropped a little bit with the switch from Taggart to Cristobal, but 16 for the Oregon Ducks, that's really not that bad when you consider a very late change right before early signing day. The University of Florida Gators up to 14, another late switch with Dan Mullen coming from Mississippi State. That recruiting class was ranked pretty low, and then now it's picked itself back up to 14. Scott Frost, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, that's about where they recruit, but he came in and he was splitting duty between UCF and Nebraska, so that's nice that he's at 22. Arkansas at 55, not good. UCF at 72. Florida Atlantic, Lane Kiffin wins 10 games and still is down to 83. Arizona State, this is a big shocker. They were down at 77 after early signing, or before national signing day, and 37th after. So that's a pretty solid jump up the ranks. May not be exactly where they want to be, but it's pretty good growth considering, Herm Edwards had never recruited in his life. Our final topic for today is going to be where did the top 5 recruits who had not signed early land on National Signing Day on February 7th. And we're looking at a slew of defensive backs and offensive tackles. So we've got cornerback. This was the number 6 prospect in the country, a 5-star out of American Heritage Florida, Patrick Surtain Jr. If you remember his dad, he was multiple-time All-Pro, multiple-time Pro Bowler. He was with the Dolphins and the Chiefs. He had a fantastic career. And Jr. comes in at number 6 overall in the entire country. He's a 5-star, and he signs with Bama. And a lot of people thought he was going to sign with LSU, with his dad being from Louisiana, but he just signs with Alabama. It's hard to top what Nick Saban can do for you as a defensive back, and you're getting some hands-on Saban treatment there as well. And Bagman. Offensive tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere, he was the number 7 overall pick, sitting there waiting to be drafted, basically, when it comes to National Signing Day. Another 5-star guy to Tampa Berkeley Prep, and he goes to Ohio State. We've already talked about him a little bit because he's the top guy in Ohio State's class. Here's your slew of corners. 3 more cornerbacks. Tyson Campbell, who's also out of American Heritage. Can you imagine having 2 5-star corners in the same defensive backfield? That's nuts. So Tyson Campbell is number 12 overall prospect out there, 5-star. He signs with the Georgia Bulldogs. Again, hard to argue with Kirby Smart when it comes to defensive back play as well. Elijah Griffin, another corner at USC, is 28th, 5-star at Mission Viejo, California. He signs with USC. Cornerback Isaac Taylor Stewart, also out of USC, number 32 overall. He was a 4-star out of San Diego, and he signs with USC as well. So you're looking at USC cleaning up a couple of, the number 4 and 5 players left on the board, top 35 players. You're looking at UGA, Ohio State, and Bama. This is how you become the number 1 and number 2 ranked recruiting classes regarding Georgia and Ohio State, and this is how you become national champion, by cleaning up those last few players on the regular signing day and also dominating your early signing period. And you're going to see Georgia, Ohio State, Texas is on the rise, USC is going to be good under Clay Helton. James Franklin's keeping Penn State in some of their best recruiting classes they've had in the last 20 years. And you're looking at Clemson, always going to be good under Dabo Swinney until he heads off to Bama. Bama's always going to be solid under Nick Saban, and if Dabo really does go there. And you've got Miami. Mark Richt will keep Miami legitimate. It's just how much longer does he have? And you have Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to own their state, and they're going to own parts of Texas and a little bit of Louisiana, and be able to probably poach some kids from Arizona and Las Vegas. And then you've got Notre Dame. Notre Dame's going to recruit nationally. Kelly had a pretty solid season there after bouncing back from that 4-8 year. And I think Notre Dame's, if they can figure out the quarterback situation and they can keep a defensive coordinator around, maybe they can get back into the college football playoff picture. Again, I'm Justin Detavio from IronmanFootballBlog.com. On Twitter, it's at IMFB_BLOG. I hope that you've enjoyed this. This is Film Don't Lie for Saturday Blitz. Thank you.